I know it looks a little bit like I'm in a movie because we are in a movie. It's a scripted experience. Um, and we have a Mars-Pluto opposition coming up on January 2nd. And then we have some very interesting transits for what I would consider the reset. And as I've said in other videos, this is a copy machine, so everything about it copies our original abilities. One of the books that I'm reading right now that is interesting me is called Our Dolphin Ancestors. And I just had a session with a client in England who said that they are forecasting more weather events and floods and things like that. And certainly the eclipse season that's coming, it looks to me like there could be that potential. And that is going to be covered on the Cosmic Salon with Nish, because that site is where free speech can happen. But I have some other ideas. Because of how we are being copied right now and potentially uploaded, I have to be careful with what words I say, because I do want to get this on YouTube, because eventually I want to get more people onto BitChute and some other platforms, because I want to talk about Transfiguration and our dolphin ancestors. And I encourage you to read that book, Our Dolphin Ancestors, and maybe we could even have a book club. Now, in it, the author says that the closest species to the human race is a dolphin, so an aquatic mammal, which I have said that is what we were. And what's also interesting to me is the number of times that we have transitioned from land back to the water, back to land, and there are mythologies also about Dionysus throwing humans back into the water and that they had to transfigure into dolphins. So this is a copy machine, okay? It goes around and around and around, and there's a possibility that while other kinds of changes are happening to the human right now, it's because they are concerned about our ability to shift into something else. So they've created a whole bunch of shifters, and we're going to see that soon. But at the same time, there's a possibility that our abilities, our original forms, are still active within our DNA. So if you read that book, Our Dolphin Ancestors, he's also trying to figure out, how is it that we can also be from primates, from allegedly apes or gorillas and so forth. And then I was reading other archaeological documents that indicate there are no primates in North America. There never have been. So there's no way that we somehow evolved from a gorilla. It's not possible. So I'm reading those archaeological conversations also. And the dolphins are really interesting to me because there is a lot in the Merovingian Mythos book by Tracy Twyman around these dolphin ancestors. And when I show you the book, and I'll bring out pictures of all the cave art that we have tails, that we were, able to go on land, but then we were also able to go back into the water. So everything about this place tries to make you one hard form, right? You've got to be that hard form. But what if we're more fluid than that? What if we are naturally shifters? And what's happening right now is they're trying to make the shift theirs. The fourth industrial revolution and the Great Reset will be their idea instead of our idea. So I want to also indicate, in the research that they've done, both in Florida, where I am now, and in Russia, they've had children born in water, and then those children never wanted to come back up on land. When given a chance to play with human relatives and other children up on land, the children chose to stay in the water. And the other interesting thing was that the children started to grow their webbing between their fingers and their toes again. And I remember reading this like Pictish book from the history of Scotland, and it said that the Picts, barely dried off and started to lose their webbing between their toes when, such and such historical event happened. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And when I went back to my Pictish homelands in Scotland, in the Moray Firth, yeah, sure enough, dolphins were there communicating with me, and I've swum with dolphins and had a lot of experience with manatees and other water species. Some of those are in my shorts, in my short videos when I went to the Isle of Skye and saw the seals there, and also seals in Hawaii and dolphins in Hawaii, and swum with the whales and so forth. Well, back to the experiments in Russia and Florida. The children could communicate with the dolphins, and the dolphins communicated with the children. And how they did it is clearly they were able to read emotions. So it wasn't just like speech. The speech was irrelevant. They could feel what the child felt. And so the children felt understood, like they felt heard and listened to and emotionally secure. So they chose to be with the dolphins until they came to puberty, when the dolphins started to get really interested in them. And I was like, wow, I bet you they've done those experiments already. They probably, already allowed different species that were very close genetically to interbreed. Absolutely. So, and then they've also forced that. Okay, that definitely happened in Atlantis. So, minotaur babies, centaurs, all kinds of monster crossbreeds that were part human and part animal. But that also is part of our history here. So that is in your DNA. So they took the children forcibly out of the water, and their hands became normal fingers and normal toes, and they stopped creating like the waxy substance on their skin, which all humans create to be able to go back into the water. So I just want to play with some of these ideas and get you interested in this topic of transfiguration. The other book that I'm going to review is called Counterclockwise. And I was like, wow. So the experiment was, and I have a lot of theories on this experiment, they took 8 older men and they took them back to a 1950s resort. And at that resort, they gave them the same food, played the same music, had a few television programs that were on in the 1950s, the same board games and so forth of a 1950s environment in a 1950s like setting. And the men regressed. They regressed back to their original like social life, and they got more animated, and they had great dexterity, and they looked younger within a week. That happened within a week. And so that's why the topic of transfiguration interests me, because right now they're trying to get us to go their way, right? The controllers want this cyborg race. For me, I'm going, well, what if some of us go the other way? And these big storms, floods, and cataclysms actually return the Earth back to a watery planet. And we saw Forbes magazine a couple of years ago posted like the naval maps of what the planet will look like and has looked like, with Zealandia rising up, and most of the continents were submerged. And that was more when we were a society of mariners. Like, we came from the sea, we were still using boats that our cousins, the dolphins, would navigate. And there's a lot of great stuff in that book, Our Dolphin Ancestors, about, we'll just listen to the weird bells, which are part of this whole construct also, but the dolphins would help the ships navigate. And I found it so fascinating that when the ships were having a hard time, it wasn't the words that the people said. The dolphins could feel their emotions. And the same, like, if they hadn't had a good catch, they could feel like dolphins would come in, bring schools of fish in. So I'm going to be doing some research. I'm going to go and see the manatees and the dolphins and stay in a watery environment soon, so I can do that research while reading these books. But I find it interesting, as they're trying to push us this way, what if we counterclockwise? What if we actually go back the other way and we get off of all these internet technologies and all this blue light and LED lighting and screens and everything? And what if we actually went back to natural environments instead of being so attached to this like hard, solid form, this meat suit that we're currently in? What if we were a little bit more fluid? And I'm just sitting here by the water, and you know, some people won't even sit outside. Like, I can push this around right now and show you I am the only human out here. And weirdly, this is a campus with a library, and I am always the only human out here, because I am one of those humans that continues to engage with nature, okay? Because I think that's the base level reality here. The other thing I wanted to talk about is time in general, real quick. So I've talked about magic before and how you have a ritual. This is all symbols and rituals, and the words spoken are spells. So words and the Tower of Babel and language in general are a deception and a trap. So let's just look at the happy birthday song that sounds like a funeral lament. And I want to show you how much spelling is done to your form here. And I'm not against your origin point of your birthday and the magnetics of your chart and so forth, but look at the spell that happens on the ritual. Candles are lighted, usually on a circular cake. The candles are lit one by one. The family stands around the circle, and then they sing this funeral lament that goes, "Happy birthday to you," like, you know, "Happy birthday to you," 3 times. And I don't even want to do it 3 times, because that's how dangerous those rituals are. And then the family all says, "How old are you now?" And they want you to commit to like an age, like a time, like a factor within that says that you're gonna get old and die soon. But a lot of the mythology is around how Glaucus suddenly realized he was eternal, and these cruel immortals were tricking us, that we are somehow going to die. And so that is the ritual of the birthday song. It is a ritual, which is why I'm very careful not to let anybody know when that date is. And I've shared it with some of my private clients and students to see my chart and so forth. But I don't allow that ritual. Okay, I'm 55, and I'm very careful that there will be no candles and some weird cake with people singing this horrible funeral lament, driving you to your early death. That's what that is, you see. So we're these timeless, eternal beings that shift forms. That's what we are. And even upon what you are call your so-called death, you're just shifting form. So that's why, you know, when you do hear the video about this year ahead, and it's very much about like, I mean, I'm seeing potential, a lot of water, okay, more than last year. And then who knows what will happen, because when you really put your light of awareness on it, you can shift that too, right? So these are some of the thoughts that I have in terms of transfiguration, and just wanting more people to get over to my BitChute if possible, because I'd like to do some lives there. I entirely cannot do lives on YouTube. It's absolute crazy land. And someone asked me, like, what does that word shill even mean? Like, what does that mean by definition? And I go, well, it's probably like conspiracy theorist. The CIA created it and is paying certain individuals to do that work of calling other people shills. That's how it goes here. It's magical like that. So yes, when my clients try and like Google my name, there's a whole bunch of stuff with that CIA type of definition. Yeah, that's what's going on. So words and language all came from the Tower of Babel. And what I would also like to get into in this Delphine society are the original oracles of Delphi, and remembering that, and maybe even re-experiencing that. And that is the counterclockwise experiment of going back, right? Going back, the nodes move back, and they're moving back right now from Aries to Pisces, which is this big cosmic ocean. So don't be afraid of the transfiguration. Whatever happens, gosh, they've done every experiment that could happen has been happening here. So there's nothing to really be worried about. You are an eternal being, and you will undoubtedly transfigure into something else. So why not play with these concepts of our dolphin ancestors and stop all the stupid rituals? Like, why do we have Xmas every year, like the birth, and then we celebrate the death, and then we celebrate the resurrection? Like, what is that all about, these weird rituals? Do you ever wonder? And why do we have to sing this stupid happy birthday song? Just stop. Stop all of that and become a little bit more flowing and fluid and curious about what is to come. Okay? If you want to do some more reading, studying, get our dolphin ancestors, and let's see if we can do a book group. All right? Bye-bye for now.